So much has happened in the last 1.5, 2 months. And of course, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this biggest invisible enemy that is attacking humanity, COVID-19. And today I thought it'll be good for me to look at Singapore and how Singapore has tackled this crisis. Singapore has actually got a lot of good words from the rest of the world. Many people in Singapore, Singapore is like smelling roses, in this fight against the coronavirus. And let me look at Singapore's rule book and how it tackled the virus. Now, the first thing is Singapore is one of those rare countries in the world that has still not gone into a complete lockdown. And there are pluses and minuses to that. And one plus, of course, is that things look very normal. Now I'm here, waterfront, and life looks very normal, And I think that is one reason why Singapore has not gone into a total lockdown. Singapore has taken a series of measures from more or less day one, and it has first, even the travel restrictions, it has done in a slow motion way. First, travel to and from Wuhan in China was stopped. Then all of China, travel to and from all of China was stopped, and then it moved on to many more areas. So that is just to illustrate the Singapore's strategy in not doing it in one blow and then surprising not just the residents of Singapore but also the outside world. And not to forget that Singapore is one of the most interconnected cities in the world. We cannot shut ourselves from the rest of the world. So it had to take it had to have a very, very deliberate and calibrated approach to tackling this problem. And of course, it is not one problem, it is actually two problems. By two problems, I mean it's an economic problem and then it is a health problem. So it has to tackle both at the same time. And I think Singapore has come a long way. Will there be a lockdown? I feel at some stage we will have to have a lockdown. When I mean lockdown, I mean total lockdown. People can't go out. Only essential services will be open. Grocery shops will be open. You won't be able to go out to your coffee shop to have your drink. And it will happen. I think the first indicator of whether it will happen or not is whether they will close the schools down for a while, for a short period. And they have refrained from doing it. The government has given many reasons why it can't do it, but I think the bigger reason is that it doesn't want to shock the system. That closing down schools will mean, that we are in deep trouble. And I think the government doesn't want to send the message that we are in deep trouble. And I don't think we are in deep trouble yet. We may come to it. So the closure of schools, the government, as I said, has deliberately decided not to close down schools. It is again doing it in a slow motion way. From this week, 1 day a week, children don't have to go to school and there will be a home-based study. So I think we are now at a critical, what I would call a tipping point. All this while the government has done very well. Now from now to wherever the next tipping point is, I think the government is, I'm sure, is closely monitoring the situation, and whether the government will lose the confidence that it has built up, especially with its people, will depend on what happens at the schools.